Can't really know I'm loving it. You feeling it? The Empire State.
Before he was a billionaire, before he was a mogul, before the Grammy speeches and Rock Nation brunches, he was just Sean Carter, a kid from Marcy Projects and a genius mind, a hustler soul, and an impossible vision to become the greatest rapper alive on his own terms. Jay-Z had been around the game for a while, doing live shows in the 80s, rapping fast like Jazzo, selling tapes out the trunk, but the industry didn't want him, said he was too slick, too cold, not marketable. That didn't stop him. He made his own lane, literally. In 1995, Jay-Z co-founded Rockefeller Records with Dame Dash and Kareem Biggs Burke. No major label would sign him, so he said, "We'll do it ourselves." And in 1996, he dropped his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. Jay recorded Reasonable Doubt like a man who knew it might be his only shot. He rapped with precision of a chess grandmaster, every bar calculated, every verse layered. This wasn't just braggadocious, it was philosophy from the block. You could hear the paranoia, the ambition, the strategy. This wasn't rap for the club, this was rap for the hustlers. Most rappers make music, Jay made moves. He and Dame Dash got a distribution deal with Priority Records, turning Rockefeller from an idea to an independent powerhouse. Jay pressed the vinyls himself, sold them from car trunks. Every detail, down to album cover, was handled in-house. The iconic black and white cover wasn't just a photo, it was a statement. This wasn't bubblegum rap, this was luxury drug rap, the rap of a man already living like a don. Reasonable Doubt didn't go platinum out the gate. It wasn't a radio darling, but it was undeniable. The production from DJ Premier, Ski, and Clark Kent, the features from Biggie and Mary J. Blige, and the writing, surgical, vivid, cinematic. Jay was ready to put himself in a GOAT conversation, not out of arrogance, but out of vision. What set Jay apart wasn't just the lyrics, it was the pace, the intensity. He wasn't just writing songs, he was building a foundation. Every day in the studio, every night studying moves, watching a game like a Wall Street trading, listening to Nas, Biggie, Iceberg Slim, taking notes, crafting something timeless. Reasonable Doubt didn't just launch Jay-Z's career, it launched a new archetype, the corporate hustler, the street executive. He didn't wait for a seat at the table, he built his own, and he was just getting started. March 9, 1997, the notorious B.I.G. is murdered in Los Angeles. The King of New York is gone, and just like that, Jay-Z's closest rival, collaborator, and friend becomes a martyr. The game is left wide open and full of grief. Jay didn't just lose a peer, he lost the only artist the streets thought might be better. Now the city was watching, expecting Jay to step into the crown, but stepping into Biggie's shadow wasn't just a dream, it was a burden. After the buzz of Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z signed a distribution deal with Def Jam. Bigger label, bigger budget, bigger expectations. To go mainstream, Jay-Z brought in Puff Daddy, the king of commercial rap at the time. Puffy was fresh off Bad Boy's historic run and knew how to turn street rappers into superstars. But Jay was different. He wasn't a dancer, he wasn't about the shiny suits, he was sharp, calculated, and still grieving. And now, he had to make a commercial album in post-Biggie world without losing himself. In My Lifetime Volume 1 was Jay-Z's attempt to blend the street with style, the hustler with the hitmaker. But the process wasn't smooth. He was battling two voices, the one that wanted to honor Biggie's legacy and the one that wanted to become pop radio. Jay-Z later admitted that he hated the lead single, Sunshine, said it felt forced, said he listened to industry voices instead of his own, but that was rare. He was making grown man rap, reflecting on trauma, remembering betrayal, channeling loss, and he was doing it all under label pressure, studio deadlines, and non-stop interviews. Creatively, 1997 was tough. Jay-Z was transitioning from underground icon to mainstream figure, but the pain of Biggie's death haunted him. It made him more reflective, more guarded, and more ambitious. He wasn't chasing fame for attention. He was chasing it to build something. Rockefeller wasn't just about rapping, it was about ownership. Even through doubt, Jay never stopped working. He was in the studio consistently, writing in his head, memorizing verses, stacking music like a machine. This Bleak once said, Jay didn't write nothing down. He would just zone out in the corner for like 15 minutes, then walk in the booth and do it all from memory. It wasn't just talent, that was mental discipline, that was obsession. In My Lifetime Volume 1 didn't get the same love as Reasonable Doubt, not at first, but it marked the beginning of Jay-Z's rise as a mainstream force. Platinum sales, magazine covers, tour money, and most importantly, progress. Jay had survived the death of his friend. He had adapted his sound without selling his soul. He was still moving, still grinding, still calculating. 7 was about growth. Painful, uncomfortable, unnecessary growth. Jay-Z didn't make his perfect album this year, but he kept building, kept moving. That's what hustlers do. They adjust. And Jay, he was only getting started. 1998, Jay-Z was 2 albums in. Critics respected him, the streets backed him, but he wasn't a household name yet. He was known, but not famous. Successful, but not everywhere. That was about to change. The question was, did Jay-Z balance lyricism with mass appeal? Could the hustle from Marcy sell millions without selling out? And more importantly, could he outwork the moment? Jay-Z's creativity process going into Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, was razor sharp. He wasn't chasing trends, he was setting up blueprints. The beat was chosen to stretch his reach, from the streets to suburban radios. Every hook calculated, every verse flawless. Jay-Z assembled a dream team: Swizz Beatz, Timbaland, DJ Premier, and the 45 King. Jay-Z heard that sample and saw the future. A children's chorus from Annie's turned into a street anthem. It was risky, but it was different, and it worked. Hard Knock Life became the biggest rap single of all time, peaking at number 15 on the Billboard's Hot 100 and topping charts across Europe. Jay-Z wasn't just in the streets anymore. He was on MTV, on the radio, in dorm rooms, and minivans, but the grind never stops. Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, sold over 5 million copies. It was Jay-Z's biggest commercial success and the turning point of his career. Released on September 29th, 1998, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts, certified 5 times platinum, earned Jay-Z his first Grammy win. Standout tracks like Can I Get A, Money Cash Hoes, Nigga What, Nigga Who, and Reservoir Dogs are one of the most standout songs on this album alone. This wasn't just a hot album. This was the beginning of Jay-Z's era. Suddenly, he wasn't just a part of hip-hop. He was driving it. Here's the thing about Jay-Z though. While other artists celebrated their wins, Jay-Z was already working on his next verse, the next album, the next deal. Toured relentlessly across the US and Europe. He built the Rockefeller brand into a movement. And he did all of this while still not writing anything down. Jay would memorize 3 verses, 2 hooks, a bridge, all in his head. No pen, no pad, just progress. Once said by Just Blaze. That wasn't just talent. That was muscle memory. That was discipline. 1999, the Hard Knock Life tour became the most successful hip-hop tour ever at that time, pulling in over $18 million in the total. Jay-Z headlined alongside DMX, Method Man, Redman, and Ja Rule, but behind the scenes, it was chaos. Fights, ego clashes, street tension, but Jay, he stayed focused. Every night, he watched the crowd, studied reactions, adjusted his flow. He wasn't just partying, he was perfecting. 1998 wasn't just about a hit song, it was about strategy. Jay-Z became a rap's ultimate archetype. He proved you could go global without losing your roots, and he did it with surgical precision. Every album, every bar, every move, part of the plan. While most rappers dropped when they felt inspired, Jay-Z dropped like clockwork, and he wasn't slowing down anytime soon. Jay-Z had gone from respected lyricist to platinum superstar, but he wasn't done, not even close, because in 1999, he'll return again, harder, faster, sharper, with a new sound and even more ambition. 1999 was the year Jay-Z became untouchable, not just in music, but in culture. He was on magazine covers, rap's Forbes list, before that was a thing, and killing every verse he touched. But behind the scenes, it wasn't just about fame, it was about scale. Jay-Z wasn't coasting, he was building, and the work never stopped. Jay-Z entered the studio for his 4th album with a mission: evolve with the sound, grow the brand, stay ahead of the game. Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, would be his biggest sounding, most radio-ready album yet, but still rooted in precision lyricism. Jay-Z tapped a mix of elite and emerging producers for this album: Timbaland, Swizz Beatz, DJ Premier, Rock Wilder, and Kanye West. Every track was engineered for both headphones and arenas. Jay-Z wasn't just picking beats, he was curating a vibe, a soundtrack for hustlers who made it out, but still remembered where they came from. 1999 was a whirlwind, and Jay-Z didn't pause for a second. He toured overseas, helped expand Rockefeller's clothing line, signed new talent, and still managed to drop an album before the year was over. Volume 3 released on December 28, 1999, debuted at number 1 on the top Billboard 200. Sold over 400,000 copies in its first opening week, eventually going certified triple platinum. Jay-Z's schedule was packed. Fly to LA, do a feature, hit the studio that night, take meetings the next morning, then fly back to London. Volume 3 had hits, bangers, deep cuts, and flexes. Big Pimpin', The Anthem, Exotic, Arrogant, Iconic. Jay was on a boat with UGK, flossing like a Bond villain. So Ghetto, produced by DJ Premier, Cook Up, Raw Bars, Brooklyn Grime. Do It Again, Put Your Hands Up, a club record with Edge, Bleak on the Rise. Come and Get Me, a hidden gem, aggressive, calculated threats, and syllables. Things That You Do, a Dr. Dre produced Curveball, one of Jay-Z's few missteps, but proof he was experimenting. I'm a hustler, baby, I sell water to a whale. Jay-Z, You Don't Know, from the following year, but the mindset fully active here. Jay was more than an artist now, he was a brand. Every move was calculated, every collaboration was strategic, every interview subtly pushing Rockefeller's image. 1999 wasn't just about rap. Rockaware, Rockefeller Films, Beanie Siegel, Freeway, and State Property Crew were all being developed under Jay's watch. While other rappers beefed and partied, Jay-Z multiplied. He built and structured systems, pipelines, and all this stemmed from a work ethic wired for longevity. Everybody look at you strange, say you changed, like you worked that hard just to stay the same. That bar wouldn't appear until years later, but the seeds were here. Jay-Z wasn't trying to stay street, he was trying to evolve, strategically, relentlessly. He didn't sleep on success, he studied it, then duplicated it album by album, move by move. By the end of 1999, Jay-Z wasn't just running by New York, he was playing chess with the entire industry. The moves were bigger, the empire was expanding, and the next year, he'll take it even further with an album meant to introduce the entire Rockefeller family. By 2000, Jay-Z had nothing left to prove as an MC. He had hits, he had classics, he had platinum plaques, but now he wanted more. Not just a career, but a legacy. Not just success, but a dynasty. Jay-Z's vision wasn't about being the only star. It was about elevating his crew. The same way Dre built Aftermath and Puff built Bad Boy, Jay-Z wanted to build Rockefeller into a machine. Originally planned as Rockefeller compilation, the Dynasty Rockefeller Familia ended up feeling like a Jay-Z solo album, but the spotlight was intentional. He gave his artists prime real estate to shine. Beanie Siegel on Streets Is Talking and This Can't Be Life, Freeway's first appearance on 1-900 Hustler, Memphis Bleak and Emil, and even Scarface got major looks. I'm trying to bring my niggas up, give them a voice, a shot, and a name. Jay knew he couldn't carry the torch forever, so he started passing it while still being the brightest flame in the room. 2000 wasn't just about business, it was about sound. Jay helped usher in a new sonic era by trusting two young producers that would later become legends. Kanye West brought the soul, chop samples, gospel drums, cinematic tension. Just Blaze brought the thunder, bombastic horns, military drums, Rockefeller anthem energy. Jay-Z heard the potential and handed them the keys. This Can't Be Life, one of the most personal records ever. Intro, a top-tier Jay opener, dark and orchestral. Soon you understand, introspective storytelling at its finest. Even with the empire growing, Jay never let up. The music still came first. No matter how big the brand got, he stayed in the lab. Hours upon hours, still writing in his head, still aiming for perfection. He dropped Dynasty on October 31st, 2000, Halloween, and there was nothing scary about the numbers. Debuted at number 1, sold over 500,000 copies his first week, eventually going 2 times platinum. Jay was dropping hits and building homes for himself and for everyone around him. By 2000, Jay-Z had master balance. He could meet with corporate execs in the morning, shoot a video in the afternoon, and write 3 verses that night. The streets respected him, the suits needed him, and the kids wanted to be him. He wasn't just rapping anymore, he was moving the culture. Rockefeller Films had begun working on Paid in Full. Rockaware was bringing in over $50 million annually, and State Property was forming into a full label brand. Jay-Z was creating lanes, jobs, structures, And it all came from the mic, from the booth, from the grind. The Dynasty wasn't just an album title, it was a mentality, a system of consistency, a blueprint for outworking the competition, outsmarting the industry, and outlasting the hype. Jay-Z's work ethic was now legendary, and yet somehow it felt like he was still in second gear. I'm only on one rule, I will not lose. Jay-Z, The Dynasty intro. By the end of 2000, Jay-Z had built a brand, mentored a roster, birthed a sound, and dropped another chart-topping album. But by the next year, he'll raise the bar again, an album so polished, so powerful, that it will redefine rap forever. By 2001, Jay-Z was a household name. He had money, he had power, but he still didn't have what he truly wanted, a universally recognized classic, not just a hit album, a masterpiece, something that could never be questioned, something timeless. He was about to deliver exactly that, under impossible pressure, in the middle of a beef, and on one of the most darkest days in American history. The blueprint didn't just come out during peacetime. Jay-Z was at war, musically, personally, and nationally. The Nas vs. Jay-Z beef had reignited after Jay-Z Subliminals on Volume 3 and Dynasty were towards Nas. Jay was dealing with legal troubles stemming from the 1999 Stab It incident. Hip-hop sound was shifting, the shiny suit era was dead, and gangsta rap fatigue had set in. And most haunting of all, the blueprint dropped on September 11, 2001. Jay-Z dropped one of the greatest albums in rap history. On the day the world stood still. Jay-Z recorded the blueprint in just 2 weeks. No notes, no notebooks, no scraps of paper. Every verse was memorized. Every take delivered in 1 or 2 shots. Kanye West, Just Blaze, and Bink was some of the best producers that was all over this album. Jay-Z had never sounded this focused, this polished, this relaxed. Jay-Z had dissed people before, but Takeover wasn't just a diss track, it was a dismantling. He broke down Nas's catalog, laughed at Mobb Deep, and declared himself the king, all over a Kanye loop of The Doors. It wasn't just bold, it was tactical. This wasn't clout chasing, this was chess. And while Nas would fire back months later with Ether, Jay had already elevated the art of battle rap. The blueprint isn't just diss records and anthems, it's autobiography, vulnerability, and wisdom. Songs like You Don't Know, Song Cry, Blueprint, Mama Loves Me. Jay-Z was now rapping for the culture, not just a dominated ether. It was about growth, and the growth was undeniable. Despite releasing on 9/11, when most stores were shut down and the world was grieving, the blueprint still sold nearly over 400,000 copies its first week, and it debuted at #1. It was widely called Jay-Z's best album, the commercial breakthrough for Kanye West and Just Blaze, a spiritual successor to Reasonable Doubt, but more redefined and more universal. Later inducted into the Library of Congress National Recording Registry in 2019. Jay-Z didn't stumble into the blueprint, he built it. Every line, every flow, every decision was a product of 5 years of non-stop pressure, pain, polish, and planning. He didn't stop after Reasonable Doubt, he didn't slow down after Volume 2, he didn't coast after Dynasty. He kept moving, he kept improving. In 2001, Jay-Z didn't just prove he was the best rapper alive, he proved he was one of the greatest artists of his generation, period. And the most dangerous part, he still had more albums coming, he was still dropping every year, he was still outworking everyone. By 2002, Jay-Z was sitting on the throne. He had dropped a masterpiece, silenced his doubters, and cemented himself as the culture's lead architect. But heavy is the head that wears the crown. Because after you drop a classic, the world expects a sequel, bigger, bolder, and better. Jay wasn't just a rapper anymore. He was the face of a machine. Rockefeller was booming. Rock-A-Ware was making millions. He had business meetings by day, concerts by night, and studio sessions that bled into the early morning. But despite the chaos, he didn't take a break. Jay-Z released The Blueprint, The Gift and the Curse, just 1 year after The Blueprint. A double album, 25 tracks, features from Beyonce, Rakim, Dr. Dre, Big Boy, Lenny Kravitz, Scarface, and more, aiming for dominance, diversity, and depth all at once. Jay had too many ideas, too much to say, too much styles to flex, and instead of narrowing it down, he released everything. Disc 1, The Gift, commercial, glamorous, radio-driven. Disc number 2, The Curse, darker, heavier, more reflective, and more street. There was brilliance, no doubt. Standout tracks like Hovey Baby by Just Blaze, Meet the Parents, You Don't Know the Remix, Some People Hate, The Watcher 2, Excuse Me Miss, were all radio hits, produced by various producers on the album and completed by Jay-Z without writing anything down. But there was also fat, some filler, some redundancy. Some fans felt the pacing suffered. Too many songs, not enough focus, critics said. If he cut this in half, it would have been another classic. Even Jay-Z later admitted, I should have just made one disc. Regardless of the criticism, Jay-Z's work ethic didn't budge. He recorded non-stop, did features, managed artists, flew city to city, and still delivered bars sharper than almost anyone in the game. He recorded verses for Scarface, Guess Who's Back. He dropped iconic features like Looney Bin with Beanie Sigel, and was shaping the next generation with Fearway's upcoming album. Jay-Z also began dating Beyonce, marketing the start of hip-hop's most iconic power couple. Even that, strategic, quiet, and intentional. While rappers were burning out, Jay-Z was still doing 16-hour days, and even when overloaded creatively, he was still outperforming most of the game's elite. Despite mixed reviews, The Blueprint 2 was a massive success commercially. Released on November 12 of 2002, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard's Top 200. Sold over 545,000 copies in its first week, went to be certified triple platinum. Jay had pulled it off again, another platinum plaque, another number 1. But this time, the conversation was more complex. Was Jay-Z spreading himself too thin? Was the machine moving faster than the message? Or was it just the cost of being the greatest in real time? While critics debated the album, Jay was already on to the next. Rockefeller Films had completed Pay It in Full. It was released in October 2002. Rockaware had crossed over 100 million in annual sales. State Property was launching a clothing line and more records. Jay was quietly taking executive meetings with Def Jam, learning the business from the inside. Jay was thinking 10 steps ahead, planning, scaling, diversifying. Steve Stout said, he was not just a rapper, he was a CEO with verses. By the end of 2002, Jay-Z had conquered everything again, but something was shifting. The pressure, the pace, the perfectionism. He had one more statement to make, a final goodbye. By 2003, Jay-Z had done it all. 8 straight platinum albums, global tours, a thriving label, fashion lines, film ventures, and lyrical supremacy. So now he won it out. I'm retiring, he said. One last album, a final bow. No features, no filler, just Jay, alone at the top, looking back at everything he built and everything it cost him. The Black Album wasn't rushed. It was designed. Every song was a statement. Every producer handpicked. Every verse written with the end in mind. The time, he brought in different producers from each track, creating a sonic journey that mirrored every side of Jay-Z. Just Blaze, Kanye West, The Neptunes, Rick Rubin, Timbaland, DJ Quick, Eminem, Ninth Wonder, and more. No Rockefeller artists, no guests, no distractions, just Jay, pure, focus, and leaving it all on the mic. The Black Album is more than music. It's autobiography. It's eulogy. It's a farewell letter from the most calculated, controlled, and commanded MC of the era. December 4th, Moment of Clarity, Allure, my first song, some of the most best and standout songs on the album. Jay was walking away, but not as a defeated man, as a fulfilled one. Was it real? Was it just marketing? Was it an exit before decline? A dramatic way to protect the legacy? The truth? A little of all three. Jay was tired of the pace. Jay was tired of the pressure, tired of the critics demanding more classics every year. He wanted time to breathe, and more than that, to build. Behind the scenes, he was preparing to take over Def Jam as president, expanding Rockefeller distribution, such as S. Carter sneakers, alcohol deals, and sports ventures, and also planning to position himself as not only a rapper, but as a mogul. On November 25th, 2003, Jay-Z performed what was supposed to be his last and final show at Madison Square Garden. It was the most epic send-off rap had ever seen. Special guests like Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, Kanye West, Foxy Brown, Missy Elliott, Pharrell, Usher, and more was on the stage. The crowd electric, the stage sold out, the vibe. This was hip-hop royalty leaving the throne. Captured in the documentary Fade to Black, this show was Jay-Z's victory lap. He walked off stage triumphant, but the fans and the streets knew better. You think I worked this hard to stay the same? Jay-Z didn't stop working. He just switched lanes. He became president of Def Jam in 2004, launched artists like Rihanna, Neo, and Rick Ross. He kept recording behind the scenes. The hunger never left, it just grew sharper. Retirement wasn't real. It was a pause, a reset, a power move. Can't leave rap alone, the game needs me. From 1996 to 2003, Jay-Z didn't just release music. He built an empire. 8 straight years, 8 albums, no breaks, no skips, all hustle, all strategy, all timeless. It wasn't luck, it wasn't hype, it was work ethic, vision, discipline, and execution. Bar for bar, deal for deal, year after year. Jay-Z didn't retire in 2003, he evolved, but by then, the blueprint was already written. At the start of 2003, the hip-hop scene got an album that hit like a hurricane. 50 Cent had just dropped Get Rich or Die Trying, and we already know how much of an impact that album has made. A bunch of other artists across the country were dropping some iconic albums as well. It seemed like everyone was at their best, and the hip-hop community saw nothing could go wrong soon. Jay-Z just came off releasing his classic album The Blueprint in 2001, and The Best of Both Worlds featuring R. Kelly, and The Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse in 2002, and The Blueprint 2.1 in 2003. Fans were loving the music that Jay-Z was releasing and was anticipating his next project. However, what fans didn't know what was his next project would be his last project, sort of. On November 14th, 2003, Jay-Z dropped the Black Album, his opposed curtain call. He called it his final statement, the end of an era. This was supposed to be the last time, the last hero riding off into the night with nothing left to prove. A clean ending for the greatest rapper alive. However, fans had mixed feelings to this announcement due to Jay-Z already announcing he was retiring before, but he never did. The news was a huge blow to the rap game for those who did think he was serious. One user on the forum said he heard a lot of people, indicating that some supporters felt abandoned. The idea of losing a dominant artist at the height of his abilities was truly depressing, but what came next wasn't a comeback, it was a rebirth. Jay-Z didn't just return to music, he rewrote the blueprint for what a rapper could be, from artist to mogul, from storyteller to strategist, from hustler to billionaire. I'm gonna be analyzing Jay-Z's entire return to the rap game and how he conquered the business side of the industry as well. After 2003, the rap game was full of competition, and Jay-Z had already accomplished it all. 8 years of albums that all charted on the Billboard and have gone multi-platinum. However, in 2004, Jay-Z will collaborate with none other than R. Kelly to release Unfinished Business, two giants from two different worlds. One the king of rap, one the king of R&B, and together, a partnership as explosive as it was unpredictable. The idea for a joint album didn't come from an ego, it came from momentum. Two dominant forces realizing that together, they could take over radio, clubs, and arenas all at once. Industry insiders pitched it as the king of rap meets the king of R&B, a once-in-a-generation crossover. Jay-Z and R. Kelly had already tested the waters before. With Fiesta, the remix, that was a massive hit. The chemistry was real. Jay-Z brought the swagger, R. Kelly brought the melody, and they clicked. So the two of the biggest artists in the world at that time decided to work on the album together, and then came Best of Both Worlds. The album was released on March 19, 2002, selling over 223,000 copies in the first week of release, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200. However, reviews were mixed. Critics loved the idea of a collaboration album, but it failed to meet their expectations. They feel that Jay-Z and R. Kelly didn't give their best performance and effort on the album, and it was very much lackluster. R. Kelly and Jay-Z never recorded in the same studio at the same time either. Rather, they would communicate by sending each other tracks back and forth. According to Jay-Z, it was a friendly competition in which one artist submitted one song and the other would be under pressure to kill it in a similar manner. But according to R. Kelly, Jay-Z was under pressure to perfect his vocal harmony and pitch while still delivering a meaningful message because of his prowess as a rapper. The concept, flawless. The music, amazing. Polished, made for stadiums, but the timing was catastrophic. Just as the album was about to explode, criminal allegations against R. Kelly surfaced. Now, this isn't something new. We all knew something was wrong with R. Kelly when he married Aaliyah when she was only 15 years old. Just a month before The Best of Two Worlds was released, a video began circulating that had allegedly depicted R. Kelly sexually abusing an underage girl, which included R. Kelly urinated on her. In June of 2002, he was indicted on 21 counts of CUP, and that same month, he was arrested in Florida, but later got released after one night in jail for $750,000.
Kelly since We spoke, like, you know what I'm saying, we spoke a couple times, but I don't really want to be like, I know he's getting calls from everywhere, and you know, some people really concerned, some people just want to be nosy. They want to know what's going on in the guy's life. You know, I don't want to be another person like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, got love for the dude. You know, I mean, if he's guilty, I just hope and pray that he get help. If he's not, I wish everybody, you know what I'm saying, everybody embrace him, you know, and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But our contact is just sparse.
Now, due to the other allegations, major networks started to pull back. Promotions were canceled. The project got buried before it could breathe. Jay-Z kept his distance. Rockefeller backed away. And for a moment, it looked like the partnership was over. It should have been done there, but you know, when money talks, anything is possible. By 2004, both camps realized something. Even without promotion, even without a tour, even with controversy, the album still sold. So the industry came knocking again. This time, the pitch was, let's do it the right way. A second album, a second chance, a proper tour, a redemption arc. And so that deal for Unfinished Business was born. But here's the truth behind the scenes. Jay-Z and R. Kelly were never a natural creative pair. R. Kelly worked like a mad scientist, locking himself in the booth, layering harmonies, chasing melodies, recording nonstop. Jay-Z worked like a precision machine, fast, strategic, finishing verses in minutes, in and out. They rarely recorded in the same room either. Most of the recording for Unfinished Business was created by stitching together unused material for the first album from Best of Both Worlds, adding new vocals, creating a part 2 from leftover parts. To label executives, it was efficient. To fans, it was marked as a grand sequel. To Jay-Z, it was strictly business. Unfinished Business was released on October 26, 2004, and selling over 214,000 copies in its first week of release, and reaching platinum status by December of 2004. The album peaked at number 1 on both the Billboard 200 and the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. Critics gave the album mediocre reviews again, accusing both artists of a cheap cash-in to promote their tour and criticizing for it to having the same subject as their previous release of Best of Both Worlds. Just like any other rapper, if you have a successful record out, going on tour is a great way to get your record to sell more, and if you have a strong fan base, fans will want to see you perform live. Then came the tour, one of the most disastrous in modern music history. What was meant to be the best of both worlds was really two worlds colliding. Jay-Z and R. Kelly were the main acts of the 40-city US only Best of Both Worlds tour, which promoted Unfinished Business. The tour was initially scheduled for 2002, but once the R. Kelly allegations came to light, it was canceled. Then the tour was rescheduled for August 19th of 2004 and was expected to gross over $30 million. However, the tour went to be a total disaster. R. Kelly showed up late, accused people of sabotaging legs. He walked off stage mid-show, and Kelly was over 2 hours late for the concert the following day, which finished at 1 in the morning for a reason that both R. Kelly and Jay-Z dispute. To make matters worse, R. Kelly fled before the last joint set. The tour was canceled since they couldn't travel to Cincinnati, Ohio for the next performance. Jay-Z was spotted at R&B artist Usher's birthday party celebration on October 17th after leaving early to handle an issue. Midway through the St. Louis performance, R. Kelly halted his performance due to the lighting issues. Jay-Z, frustrated and furious, kept performing alone. Crowds booed. Tension escalated until one night in Madison Square Garden, where R. Kelly was pepper sprayed backstage by Tata, who was a Rockefeller associate and childhood friend of Jay-Z. Now, in an interview with Angie Martinez, Jay-Z mocked R. Kelly about claiming he saw guns in Madison Square Garden. Jay-Z said this: "That's Madison Square Garden. You cannot get a gun in Madison Square Garden. Does he know where he's at?"
Really don't know it went down. You know what I'm saying? We had a lot of different things that happened on the tour. You know, we missed a lot of different dates. You know what I'm saying? That became frustrating to me because, you know, I mean, people pay their hard-earned money and they wait 30 days and on the 31st date and there's a tour canceled and my name is on that. So people are like, them, you know, they're canceling tours and they're doing this and they're walking off stage. Then at the Garden, it really just reached the all-time point where it could be dangerous because, you know, when people start saying they see guns and different things like that, and there's 20,000 people in the building. Like, imagine if people would have panicked and they start rioting and then people got trampled and different things like that. And, you know, that wouldn't hold well in my conscience. So I couldn't do that no more. That was the end of that for me.
But later on, R. Kelly has confirmed that he didn't see any guns after all. R. Kelly was later banned from the rest of the tour, and the tour name was changed to Jay-Z and Friends. The partnership died on that spot. Both men sued each other for millions, for 75 millions, 100 millions, 50 millions.
I mean, you know, for something that was supposed to be to show people that, you know, two all-star talents can work together for it to turn out this way is really messed up. It's embarrassing for me, really, too, because I really wanted it to work, and I wanted it to work, but, I mean, that's where we at.
Right.
We can't, I mean, I think it's just getting bad advice at this point, or just, you know, when someone's drowning and they just start waving their hands crazy, just relax.
Right.
So good, but
But what started as a historic collaboration ended as a feud. For Jay-Z, the entire R. Kelly saga became a lesson in business, in loyalty, and in control. It proved that not every partnership, no matter how successful they are, was built to last. It taught him the cost of tying his brand to someone unpredictable, and it showed him the value of steering his own ship, something he'll lean on heavily after retirement.
But if there was one thing you could say to him right now, like, what would you say to R. Kelly?
relax.
Relax.
However, this wouldn't be the last collaboration Jay-Z would do. He would eventually cross genres with one of the greatest rock bands of all time, Linkin Park, and they will both come together to create Collision Course. In the early 2000s, hip-hop and rock were opposite sides of the cultural map. Jay-Z was the king of rap, fresh off the Black Album, ruling radio, fashion, and the streets. Linkin Park was the biggest rock band on the planet, multi-platinum, genre blurring, the voice of a generation that lived on anger, emotion, and distortion. A collaboration between the two wasn't just unlikely, it sounded impossible, but that impossibility is exactly why it worked. When MTV suggested a mashup series to Jay-Z, he expressly asked to collaborate with Linkin Park, which led to their meeting. Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park was already a fan and had previously made mashups with Jay-Z's music before. Thus, the band's popularity made them an obvious choice. Now, unlike most cross-genre collaborations at that time, Collision Course wasn't built from scratch. To make the song fit better, they wanted to rework and re-record some parts of them. In an interview, Mike Shinoda explained the process of recording the songs and matching them together. Jay and I realized it's better to re-perform the rap vocals if you're gonna do it to a new beat because the vibe changes and you have to deliver your verse a little differently. Members of Linkin Park would re-record instrumentals in the vocal tracks as well, and Linkin Park and Jay-Z would record the entire EP in just 4 days. Then they locked into the studio in Los Angeles and built every track from the ground up. There were no egos, no arguments about direction, no debates about who was the bigger star. It was pure creativity. Mike Shinoda acted like a bridge between worlds, and Chester Bennington's vocal delivery brought new meaning to Jay-Z's lyrics. Hall's presence made Linkin Park sound hit harder, sharper, and more monumental. To seal the project, MTV filmed a one-night-only hybrid performance. A full band, Jay-Z in front of a rock band, Linkin Park performed hip-hop like it was a second language. Collision Course officially released on November 30th, 2004, and debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 368,000 copies in the first week of release. Despite the mixed reviews, the EP was a commercial success, eventually winning Jay-Z and Linkin Park a Grammy for Best Rap Song Collaboration at the 48th Grammy Awards. To this day, Collision Course is considered one of the best genre blending projects ever created. It opened the door for future mashups, collaborations, and cross-genre experiments. Despite the controversy and success of Jay-Z in 2004, by December of that year, Jay-Z would be named president and CEO of Def Jam, and by January 2005, he would officially start. This wasn't just a job, it was a shift in power. The industry's biggest, the student becomes a master moment. Rockefeller was collapsing, and after the Black Album, Jay-Z was thinking about his future beyond rap. And since Rockefeller was under Def Jam, the label was sold, and all three, Dame Dash, Jay-Z, and Big, sold their share. This move positioned him perfectly. Lyor Cohen and Universal saw Jay-Z not just as a rapper, but as a businessman with credibility in the streets and the boardrooms. Someone who could modernize Def Jam during a rapidly changing music landscape. Jay-Z wasn't a symbolic figure. He didn't show up once a month for photo ops. He worked. He held meetings. He scouted talent. He rebuilt the label's roster. He pushed executives who had been comfortable for years. But his biggest contribution? Artist development. Something labels had stopped prioritizing. Jay-Z believed in giving artists time, resources, and trust. The same things he fought for early in his own career. People argue about Jay-Z's time as an executive, but the one thing no one debates, his knack for scouting talent. During his time as president for Def Jam, Jay-Z will go on to sign Rihanna, Ne-Yo, Rick Ross, Young Jeezy, Fabulous, and Nas. Rihanna in particular was a huge moment. Jay-Z personally auditioned her. He tested her, he pushed her, he protected her. She came into the building as a teenager from Barbados and left as one of the biggest pop artists in the world. but becoming the boss came with smoke. Some legacy Def Jam artists felt Jay-Z didn't push their albums enough. Some execs didn't like answering to a rapper, and Dame Dash accused him of selling out. Others said he focused on his own projects too much, and there was truth mixed with exaggeration. Jay-Z was learning on the job, and Def Jam, like every major label at that time, was struggling with the digital revolution. But one thing was clear: Jay-Z brought discipline, vision, and new life to a label that had been fading away. However, by the end of 2007, Jay-Z will step down as the president and not renew his contract with Def Jam. He wanted to take a new challenge, and by 2008, he will start Roc Nation. Jay-Z didn't leave Def Jam empty-handed. He left with experience, power, and a deeper understanding of how major labels work from the inside out. For the first time, the kid from Marcy Project wasn't hustling for a seat at the table. He was running the entire building. Finally, coming out of his retirement, he released a so-called comeback album, Kingdom Come. The album was released on November 21st, 2006, and debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 680,000 copies in the first week of release. Jay-Z ultimately chose to utilize his popularity stage name, Jay-Z, instead of his real name, Sean Carter, for the album's release. Although he still had more work to do both professionally and creatively, Jay-Z felt too successful to step away. In addition to addressing his experience as an agent, a flowing rapper in his mid-30s, the return allowed him to explore new topics that went against the grain of this period's hustling storylines. He gained new, fresh insight from the break and the rise to the position of president CEO of Def Jam. In Kingdom Come, topics of riches, legacy, and even politics, such as the government's reaction to Hurricane Katrina, are explored together with the difficulties and hardships of an elderly, well-known artist. This gave Jay-Z new material that was different from his youthful character as a drug dealer. He called himself a reluctant rapper who at first thought of hip-hop as a profitable side gig rather than a reverb art form. His reappearance showed that he was still committed to the artistic challenge and pushing the limits of what a great rapper could accomplish and talk about, even if he didn't need the money. In addition, the title Kingdom Come also alludes to Jay-Z's Jehovah or Jehovah character, signaling the return of his kingdom in the music business. Now, of course, the album received mixed reviews, but it was an absolute commercial success, and as of now, the album is double platinum. But the transition from the Black Album to Kingdom Come wasn't smooth, but it was pivotal to the music that Jay-Z will soon put out. American Gangster was Jay-Z reclaiming a crown he briefly dropped, with the precision of a CEO and the hunger of a street narrator who still has something left to prove. Because after the mixed reception to Kingdom Come, the critics were loud. They were calling Jay-Z washed, a sellout, and much more. But Jay-Z will soon shut them up and make them eat their words. The way Jay-Z actually came up with American Gangster was after the 2007 film American Gangster, starring the one and only Denzel Washington. The film followed the notorious drug lord Frank Lucas and what ultimately led up to his demise and his arrest. However, for Jay-Z, it was about the psychology, the discipline, the paranoia, the codes, the empire building. It mirrored the life he left behind. Within weeks, Jay-Z produced a full conceptual album, not a soundtrack, not a remix project, but a mirror story told through his own memories, his own scars, and his own hindsight. He was telling the parallel psychology, what it means to be ambitious in an environment designed to kill ambition, what it means to try to ascend with a target on your back, what it means to build an empire without the luxury of traditional opportunity. American Gangster was officially released on November 6, 2007, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 425,000 copies in its first week of release. The album was received greatly by critics, and within a month of its release, it will go on to be platinum. In 2008, as the first hip-hop artist to headline Glastonbury, Jay-Z created history and silenced detractors who thought hip-hop had no place at the rock-focused event. He notably began his performance with the rendition of Wonderwall by Oasis in an attempt to harass Noel Gallagher, who had openly opposed the choice. Also, in April 2008, Jay-Z and Beyonce would officially tie the knot and be married, and they share 3 children together as of 2025. Before the decade ended though, Jay-Z will go out with a bang. However, for New York, they wasn't at their peak anymore like they was in the 90s. Every region was dominating but New York. The city that birthed hip-hop was no longer leading it. Jay-Z, now 40 years old, a CEO, a mogul, a man beyond the peak most rappers ever reached, saw this shift from a distance. Blueprint 3 was the attempt to redefine what modern New York rap could be. With Blueprint 3, Jay-Z wasn't aiming for nostalgia. He wasn't trying to remake the soul samples of the 2001 Blueprint album. He aimed to move past that and have a better and more futuristic sound, and no other person could do it better than Kanye West. Kanye was at the height of his experimental genius, fresh off graduation and 808s and Heartbreak, ready to architect a new sonic sound for Jay-Z. The Blueprint 3 officially released on September 8, 2009 and peaked at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 476,000 copies in the first week of release. The album received great and positive reviews, and the album is now double platinum. 4 singles from the album: DOA, Death of Autotune, Run This Town, On to the Next, and Empire State of Mind won a total of 6 Grammys at the 52nd Grammy Awards and 53rd Annual Grammy Awards, while the album was nominated for Best Rap Album. Through a series of connections in the industry, Jay-Z ended up with the song, which was originally penned for another singer. However, Jay-Z turned Alicia Keys' song into something more when he heard it: a letter of affection, a monument, a cinematic revival of Pride in New York. When Empire State of Mind dropped, it became a citywide phenomenon. In addition to climbing charts, it was bombarded by taxis. The Knicks were playing it in their arena. Before they even left the airport, travelers heard it. The song was being played everywhere. You couldn't even escape it. And it was in 2K games, soccer games, and basketball games, football games, and pizza shops, libraries. It was everywhere. Now, even after Empire State of Mind, the album had many more hits. Songs like Run This Town featuring Rihanna, Thank You, A Star Is Born featuring J. Cole, Already Home featuring Kid Cudi, On to the Next featuring Swizz Beatz, and Young Forever featuring Mr. Hudson. The album is full of reflective moments where Jay-Z openly addresses age, legacy, and his responsibility to bring culture back. Blueprint 3 wasn't about reclaiming the throne, it was about reinforcing the foundation. Jay-Z didn't just restore New York in 2009, he redefined the sound of modern rap. Now, moving on to the business side of things, in 2009 was a pivotal year for Jay-Z and the development of Roc Nation, which Jay-Z founded in 2008. It started off as a full-service entertainment business that handled branding, publishing, management, and touring. Jay-Z would sign a $150 million contract with Live Nation, which gave Jay-Z a platform to start his new label and funded the creation of Roc Nation. Roc Nation also signed a distribution deal contract with Sony Music in 2009. Jay-Z remained an owner of the 4040 Club, which was a series of exclusive sports bars. He was an owner of the New Jersey Nets basketball team at that time. He even had his own champagne brand called Armand de Brignac and incorporated it into his Barclays Center investments. And by 2009, his earnings were estimated to be a whopping $35 million. And things will only go up for Jay-Z in the next decade. In 2010, Jay-Z released his greatest hits compilation, The Hits Collection, Volume 1, and his autobiography, Decoded, which examined his life and the significance of his lyrics. In addition, he continued his fall tour in support of the previous year's album, The Blueprint 3, and performed at major festivals like Coachella, where he recorded live at Coachella in 2010. He also started collaborating with Kanye West on the 2011 album Watch the Throne. Now, as many of you may know, this wouldn't be the first time Jay-Z collaborated with Kanye West on an album, song, or a project. Ever since The Blueprint, Kanye West has been working with Jay-Z, and since then, Kanye West has been putting out monster albums and giving artists he worked with a hit record. But before they worked on Watch the Throne, Kanye West released arguably his best album ever, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, an album that practically defined an era of Kanye West's genius. But what the world didn't know was that Jay-Z and Kanye West were about to shake up the rap game once again with a monumental album. Watch the Throne wasn't just an album, it was a moment, a cultural earthquake, a declaration of dominance from two men who had climbed from Brooklyn and Chicago streets to the highest levels of global influence. But behind the gold-plated exterior, behind the fashion, the museums, the Paris trips, was a deeply emotional story of brotherhood, competition, grief, ego, and creation at the highest artistic level ever. Jay-Z and Kanye West decided to collaborate in the same studio instead of working remotely, and the project, which started out as a possible EP, developed into a full-length album. 2010 saw the album's announcement, and Watch the Throne was deeper than flashy luxury rap. Underneath the flexing was a thesis. Black success at the highest level is both a victory and a miracle. The album constantly explores the paranoid of success, survivor's guilt, racism, even at the top, the burden of generational trauma, building legacy for their children, the complexity of wealth, the cost of being first. Jay-Z's maturity and Kanye's vulnerability created a balance no one expected. Watch the Throne officially released on August 8th, 2011. The album was #1 everywhere and selling almost 500,000 copies in the first week of its release, and now the album is 5 times platinum. But the standout song, Niggas in Paris, will go on to be Diamond, and on some occasions, Jay-Z and Kanye West performed the song at least 12 times in a row in one single night, and they will go on to win multiple awards and Grammys. The song also has other bangers like No Church in the Wild, Otis, and H.A.M. Watch the Throne is the sound of two men who survived impossible odds, stepping into a palace they built with their own hands. It's opulence with scars, it's wealth with trauma, it's a celebration with conscience. Now shifting focus to the business side of things, during Uber's Series B funding round, Jay-Z bought a $2 million share. The value of this astute early investment increased dramatically as his business grew. In a partnership with Bacardi Limited, Jay-Z purchased a 50% equity investment in the Douce Cognac brand, which subsequently produced significant profits. In order to rebuild the brand's reputation and worth, he collaborated with Pharrell Williams' Billionaire Boys Club clothing company, which he had previously sold but kept a stake in. 2011 was a very successful year for Jay-Z. His status and legacy only kept getting better. Moving on into the next year, which was 2012, Beyonce gave birth to their first child and daughter, Blue Ivy Carter, on January 7, 2012, and because of this, he released a song titled Glory 2 days later. In September 2012, Jay-Z launched the Barclays Center in Brooklyn with 8 sold-out performances. The inaugural Made in America Festival in Philadelphia was organized and headlined by him. In 2012, the tour with Kanye West proceeded throughout Europe. Additionally, he actively supported President Obama's re-election campaign and gave a speech at one of his rallies. The next following year, Jay-Z would release another album that rocked the charts again. By 2013, Jay-Z wasn't just another rapper anymore. He was an icon and a mogul. His next album, Carter Magna Holy Grail, was made of altitude rather than hunger or survival. It originated from the perspective of a man standing atop of a mountain and gazing down at the world he had battled his way through. Jay-Z also really embraced the reality of his wealth, celebrity, legacy, privacy, and power for the first time, not as a fantasy or a show-off, but as a burden. The theme of this record was what happens when you accomplish everything and discover that the crown weighs more than the come up. Samsung bought 1 million copies of the album from Jay-Z for $5 million, and the partnership's overall projected value was $20 million. 3 days before the album's public release on July 4, 2013, Samsung Galaxy owners who downloaded the Magna Carta app could access and download it for free. The collaboration was a historic business-to-business transaction that changed the emphasis from selling directly to customers to selling to a company that will then distribute the goods to its clients. While Samsung utilized music to promote its gadgets, Jay-Z took advantage and used it to guarantee a percentage of the sales of his albums and increase his profile. It was the first time a major brand deal turned into album distribution. The industry never seen anything like this. Jay-Z engineered a way to go platinum before the album even dropped. Magna Carta Holy Grail officially released on July 4, 2013. The album peaked at #1 on the Billboard 200 and sold 518,000 copies in its first week of release. Of course, reviews were mixed about the album, but it still was a commercial success and overall a great album. This was not the most beloved Jay-Z album, but culturally, it was one of his most influential. It's the sound of Jay-Z navigating the complexities of being both a billionaire mind and a human being who still feels the weight of his past. It's a man trying to understand his own place in history, while history is still being written. Jay-Z had accomplished every marital goal conceivable by the middle of the 2010s, including fortune, influence, power, respect, and longevity. However, beneath the surface, there was a crack. In public, he was a monarch. In private, he was in disarray. Charts and financial decisions would not characterize the next phase of his life, but rather the most intimate tale he had experienced: the dissolution of his marriage, the restoration of trust, the establishment of a dynasty, and the agonizing path that resulted in 444. Rap glory wasn't prevalent in this era. It was about taking responsibility. Family was a topic. It was about a man discovering that he could lose everything that was once truly important to him. Jay-Z had never been more human. Jay went on into a more subdued and more reflective artistic phase following Magna Carta Holy Grail, but he also experienced a significant time of professional growth. Between 2014 and 2016, Jay-Z expanded his art collection, became more involved into tech and business projects, purchased a controlling position in Tidal, and continued to turn the Carter brand into a global dynasty. However, friction was building behind the scenes. The public was unaware that Jay-Z and Beyonce's marriage was on the verge of dissolution. Their relationship was gradually being ruined by Jay-Z's faults, including the adultery he would later admit. Then came the time when everyone began to wonder, the infamous slap from Solange to Jay-Z. Now this didn't happen for no reason. Solange is the sister of Beyonce, and everyone wondered why she assaulted Jay-Z, and there was only one answer for it: infidelity. The Met Gala on May 5th, 2014, Solange and Jay-Z got into a fight in a private elevator at the Standard Hotel. No sound, no background music, just surveillance footage showing Jay-Z being attacked by Solange while Beyonce stands silently between them. It turned became one of the decade's most widely shared cultural events. The whole story was unknown to the world. However, the reality was straightforward. Beyonce had been harmed by Jay-Z. She was being defended by Solange. In a joint statement, the Carters described it as a family matter. And two of the most significant albums of the 21st century would shortly be sparked by this occasion. Honesty was the only path forward since the dynasty was under danger. Beyonce dropped Lemonade in 2016, a vote of lightning struck, an admission, a realization. It was evident from the record that Jay-Z had been unfaithful, Beyonce had been enraged, the union had endured betrayal, anger, recovery, and renewal. The Carters used their art as a kind of therapy for the first time in their careers. Beyonce spoke her truth to the globe. Jay-Z was now under more pressure. If he remained silent, he was a coward. He risked everything if he revealed the whole truth. And telling the truth was his choice. Jay-Z went through a phase of deep introspection after Lemonade dropped. He went to counseling, he had to confront childhood pain he had to suppress, he faced the numbness he had grown emotionally to protect himself. He admitted that he betrayed his wife because of such numbness. Jay-Z, the hyper-disciplined, street-race hustler, was at the last compelled to address the emotional harm caused by his past, and the resultant record would be unlike anything he had produced before. Jay-Z collaborated with seasoned producer No ID to compose the soundtrack for 444. However, the foundation was laid between 2014 and 2017, heavy on samples, cozy, contemplative, emotional, and minimalist. These rhymes weren't intended for flexing, they were intended for admission. Now, in addition to marital failure, Jay-Z had to deal with ancestral trauma, ego, toxic masculinity, shame, parenting, black wealth and responsibility, and middle-aged identity during this time. And at last, Jay-Z was prepared to be more than simply a confident rapper. He was ready to be vulnerable as a man. Jay-Z also seen firsthand the danger he was taking by concealing himself behind emotional walls. All of the events that occurred between 2014 and 2017, the scandal, the treatment, the development of the family, the self-examination, the artistic development, the weight of celebrity, led to one unavoidable outcome. For the first time since Marcy Projects, Jay-Z took off his armor on his album. At last, a man known for his control and discipline will acknowledge, "I made an error, I'm a human. Additionally, I wish to improve." Building empires will not be the topic for the following chapter. It will have to do with soul building. When Jay-Z went on to the studio to record 444 in 2017, he had changed since 2013. The overconfident king was not him. He was a man who had experienced humility, a man who was capable of saying sorry, a man with emotional intelligence, a man who had prepared to share the truth with the world before someone else did. Sean Carter's rebirth was this. That would be the confession at 444. On June 30th, 2017, Jay-Z released 444. The album instantly went #1 on the US Billboard 200 with 262,000 copies sold in the first week of release. The album will go on to be nominated for Album of the Year at the 60th Annual Grammy Awards, along with Song of the Year for the title track and Record of the Year for Story of OJ. In addition to delving into more generous societal criticism like financial literacy and racial inequality, the album examines his personal development and vulnerability, particularly his relationship with his mother and daughter. It has been called a brutally honest apology that also acts as a baptism for a new version of himself, which is Jay-Z or Sean Carter. The album's cultural earthquake was the story of OJ. The song is a brutally honest analysis of economic survival, racism, capitalism, and caricature. Jay-Z was speaking as someone who has experienced every chapter of the American Hustle playbook, not as someone who was reprimanding. The song went on to become one of the most researched in hip-hop history and essential in the classroom, a thesis on black identity from the perspective of a person who has experienced the conflicts.
I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay.
The song 444 is a focal point of the entire album. Jay-Z acknowledges being unfaithful. He acknowledges his emotional immaturity. He acknowledges the trauma of generations. He acknowledges that he failed the woman who worked with him to create an empire. 444 demonstrated that evolution is achievable at any age, something that no trophy could convey. That weakness has the potential to be very potent. Legends can change, they don't have to calcify. 444 demonstrated that evolution is feasible at any age. In May 2017, Jay-Z and Live Nation agreed to a $200 million touring deal for 10 years. Live Nation produced and promoted his shows as part of his deal. He founded Arrive, the venture capital division of Roc Nation, which offers entrepreneurs funding, branding, and mentoring. Sprint reportedly made $200 million in Tidal, increasing the value of Jay-Z's investment tenfold and valuing the company at $600 million. According to Forbes magazine, he made $42 million in 2017 from a variety of businesses, including apparel, spirits, and music. His status as a top-paid hip-hop musician was cemented by these actions, which also increased his net worth. Jay-Z was well on his way to becoming a billionaire, and he was just a couple moves away from reaching that status. If the apology was found in 444, then the reconciliation was found in Everything Is Love. Two icons recreated their kingdom piece by piece, truth by truth, and art by art. It was not merely a collaborated record. The Carters were redefining American mythology in real time as Black power couple, acting as equals, business associates, and artists. It sounded like healing, the sound of forgiveness, and the sound of two billionaires selecting one another once more. Fans sensed the energy, the relief, the unity, the renewal, despite the conflicting reviews. The Grammy for Best Urban Contemporary Album went to the Carters. This initiative solidified their transformation from two separate megastars to a single international organization. June 2019, according to Forbes magazine, Jay-Z became the first billionaire in hip-hop history. Not Viva recommendations, not by one firm, used on portfolio, however, liquor, art, real estate, streaming, touring, publishing, branding, and sports administration. Jay-Z didn't just establish a company, he established a system. He made his life a value asset. He put his name on a page of accounts, his ability to influence equity, and throughout it all, ownership served as a guiding concept. And by 2020, Jay-Z wasn't chasing a throne, he was building an empire that no throne could contain. By the time the 2020s rolled around, Jay-Z had established himself as something that no other rapper had ever achieved. A living legend whose every move was scrutinized for its meaning rather than its hype. He stopped chasing culture waves during his time and instead became the tide, an elder statesman who impact extended to business, politics, music, philanthropy, and the worldwide dialogue about Black excellence. The decade in which Jay-Z went from being a businessman to an institution is examined in this chapter. Although he doesn't have to, Jay-Z isn't involved in the daily grind of music in the 2020s. A single verse, a single appearance, or even a single commercial transaction might become a culture moment because of his level of existence. At this time, he completely transitioned into the function of advisor, the billionaire who spearheads the cause, the original person with the last say. The 2020s are about legacy management and cultural stewardship, whereas the 90s were all about skill, the 2000s were about domination, and the 2010s were about mogul status. Today, Jay-Z hardly ever raps, but when he does, everything stops. Every time he touches a microphone, it sounds like a rare report from the summit, a State of the Union speech. Initially controversial, it evolved into social impact initiatives, a cultural connection between Black artists and a historically corporate league, and the redesign of the Super Bowl halftime show. Jay-Z effectively took on the role of the cultural interpreter of the NFL. The 2020s aren't the credits if Jay-Z's life were a film. These are the moments when the protagonist, having won everything, takes on the ultimate form as a quiet godfather. A living archive, a once-in-a-generation person who stands above the commotion and shapes history even when he remains silent. In the 2020s, Jay-Z is not in competition. His legacy is being dedicated.